Hello beautiful people, thank you for tuning in. I'm Akira, and in this training video I'm going to share with you how I train glutes and hamstrings. But before we get into that, I just want to say thank you to all my followers on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and subscribers. Everyone, thank you so much for all your views and all the shares especially. It's been a really great way for me to reach out and connect with my friends and help them out, and little things, this and that, that's been that's helped to make me successful at what I've been doing. So our first movement, and before we get into that, I encourage you all to check out my hips don't lie warm-up tutorial. I find that the more warmed up my hips are, not the more flexible I am, but the more my hips are warmed up, the better and more efficient I am at getting more done in my squats. And I've also noticed greater strength gains, especially in my performance in terms of hitting personal bests on my squats. So the first thing we're gonna do is our pre-exhaust movement, and I can't stress that enough. So let's get started. All right, so the first move we're gonna do pre-exhaust. I like to warm up my glutes. In this particular machine here, this is called the Glute Blaster. It's pretty epic for that. Make sure the settings down low for your chest. Situate your feet like this. The weight's gonna be light, so your volume is gonna be high. So I start off with a light weight, and my rep range is right around 15 and 20. So what I do right off the bat, you can't see from that angle, but from when I get on the machine right away, I think about squeezing my knees together, right? So I'm keeping everything tight in the middle, and I press, extend all the way up. First thing I do is, as soon as I extend my heel all the way back, I think about connecting with my glutes. I flex really hard and tight. I tell myself that's where I'm trying to connect first. Then I continue. Just like that. And the breathing on this one. Deep breath on the way down. Exhale on the way up. Just like how I did extensions, leg extensions, every 5 or every 10, I like to do what's called a flush. It's where I flex and hold as tight as I can for about 5 seconds. And I continue to move. When I do that, like I said, every time I utilize the flush, it allows me to get more blood into that muscle, whatever target muscle I'm trying to hit. So again, the focus is on glutes and hams. So that's my first movement. I typically do 3 to 4 sets of this particular movement. My rest interval is really, really short. It's right around 15 and 20 seconds. I keep it intense, so I keep myself moving. But the whole point of this is all about volume intensity. So when you do this one, keep in mind, if you're doing this movement and you're pressing and you feel yourself doing this where you're pushing off the machine like this, you're actually not, you're losing the point of the exercise, right? So keep yourself stationary on the machine just like this. Deep breath and extend. You want all the work to be in your glutes, right? So deep breath and extend. And again, tip to this one, to really connect with this one, I think about squeezing my knees together, like in the middle. So right now my knees are actually squeezing in the middle, this way. It allows me to think of, so if you're standing on the machine, I think of squeezing my glutes really tight. What happens is when I do that, my legs, everything comes together. So we tell our gymnasts, we tell them squeeze your butt, and that makes your heels and everything squeeze towards, tight towards the middle. In that sense, that's how I connect with this machine here. So there you have it, 15, 20 reps, 15-second rest intervals, about 3 to 4 sets. Just gauge it by feel. The next one is this one over here. All right, the next pre-exhaust movement is this seated leg curl machine. I love the laying down flat one a little bit more, but this one works just the same. What you're gonna do, position yourself on the machine like this. You're gonna set the weight really light. Light meaning, when I say do 20 reps, it feels like you can do 30, right? So you're not trying to struggle, get to 15, and then you require someone to spot you to get to the next 5. The whole point of getting blood into the muscle is to do exactly that. You're not trying to struggle and force these reps. These are not forced reps. These are all just pre-exhaust movement. So here we go. This warm-up's for your hamstrings. Now, without getting too deep into the minutia of things, right? There's different ways of doing a seated leg curl. You can point your toes and curl, and what that does is it takes your calves out of the movement. But I like to warm up my calves while I'm warming up my hamstrings anyway, so I keep my toes flexed anyways. Another thing you do, by turning your toes in, out or even straight forward, you're hitting different angles of your hamstrings. I just keep it really simple and basic. I just do regular seated leg curls. Now when you do this one, similar to my leg extensions, it's the same exact thing. I'll do 5 reps, and flex and hold. I'll hold it for 5 seconds. I utilize the flush. I actually use this a lot of times in my warm-ups. 5 seconds flush, and then I continue, another 5. The breathing on this one, deep breath at the top, squeeze at the bottom, let it out, deep breath. Do 15 to 20 reps. If you feel like hitting 30, that's fine too. But remember, the whole point of pre-exhaust movement is getting blood into the muscles. So by me keeping it really intense and doing multiple sets, say 3 to 4 sets with short rest intervals, that means like my rest interval between the time that I finish this movement and the next is really short. So I just finished that set here. I gave myself about 15, 20 seconds rest, then I go again. All right, so by keeping my rest intervals really short, I'm able to keep it really intense and I'm able to still get a lot of blood into the muscle. So this pre-exhaust movement that I do, just like leg extensions, I'll do about 4 sets, 3 to 4 sets. I'll gauge it by feel. And after the glute extension machine plus this seated leg curl machine, I'm already starting to get a pump in my glutes and my hamstrings. So that's that right here on the machines. Next, let's get on to my bread and butter towards I feel like my glutes and my hamstring gains, Jefferson squats. Let's get on that. All right, this next movement, the Jefferson squats. These are probably the most awkward movement you're gonna do in the gym. So what you're gonna do, I start off with a light weight, and I like to do a 25 pounds. I like to stick with 25 pounds on each side, and if I go heavier, I'll add 25s as I go. Problem is, if I use bigger weights like 45s, I actually don't get as much of I don't get actually as good of a range of motion as in case versus when I'm using a smaller weight. So because the weights are smaller, I can actually squat down deeper. So there's 2 positions you need to know, right? Your feet are basically gonna be 90 degrees, and this is where the whole warming up your hips comes into play, right? So the more warmed up your hips are, not so much how good can you do a split, but how warmed up your hips are is gonna make this movement a lot more comfortable and make you a lot more effective at connecting with your glutes and your hamstrings when you're doing this one. First thing to note, when you're doing this one, I like to do this one like standing basically right in front of a mirror so I can watch myself. So your front foot is forward, your left foot is pointing out. Your feet are about shoulder width apart, and I'm using my reflection in the mirror just behind the camera to see where my foot positioning is at. What you want to do, without even grabbing the bar, what you want to do is make sure that when you squat down, you can get in the box. Now the box is this position here. Your body's in a 90-degree angle, just like this. Can you see that? And what you do, take note of, my knees are not compromised by going forward like this. Okay, that's where you don't want to be. You want to make sure when you squat down, you're in a box, almost as if when you're doing your squats, you're still in this position here, right? So here we go, front squat, right? You're gonna grab the bar. So if your back foot is forward, I like to do it with an over-under grip, just like a deadlift. Grab the bar, I keep my hands at the lines, just as if I was grabbing the bar if I was on a bench. Now watch my hips. Now think about my hips. One more thing before I get going. Whenever you squat, you need to make sure that your shoulders are above your hips. So you got to tell yourself hips under. You roll your hips. Now this particular movement really helped me get better at my technique in my squats. In other words, when I say hips under, when you're standing up at the top of the movement on your Jefferson squats, you'll see your hips. You can actually roll your hips forward. That's what I mean by pelvis under, hips forward, a hollow body shape. You're actually doing this every single time, even when you're doing hollow holds, right? So you want to stand up, shoulders are above your hips. Now, as you lower down, watch my hips. My hips are actually gonna drop straight back. So as I'm squatting down, fix my foot position. As I'm squatting down, my hips are actually dropping back, right? That's how I sit down in the Jefferson squat position. And then I stand up, and as I stand up, I think of pressing through it. Whenever you're doing Jefferson squats, to me, I connect with it always in the front leg. It's all in my front side, my glutes. I stand up and I roll my hips under. That's what I do at the top. So it's down, forward. So you'll see my hips actually kind of shifting back and forth. That's the first tip. The second tip, honey, can you come around the side? The second tip is the position of my right arm to my right leg. I'm keeping my right arm and my right leg almost glued to my thigh. So as I lower down, I think of letting this hand kind of unzipper my pants. That's why I'm visualizing it. So as I'm unzippering my pants, I manage to keep the weight just beneath me. And I'll demonstrate what that looks like. So again, visualize my hand unzipping my pants, right? So here. I'm at the top of the movement. And as I come down, I'll try to kind of almost bring the bar forward. There. What you want to avoid, watch my chest. You don't want to do this one, right? I'm dropping my chest forward and up. So here we go. I'll demonstrate again, but this time I'll demonstrate the movement going forward. So you grab the weight. Watch how my position, my thumb is actually going, I have an overhand grip on my right side, underhand grip on my left side. Now this is what I mean by rolling my hips or rocking my hips, right? Forward. Just like that. Jefferson squats are no joke. You need to make sure you pick a light weight because those will catch up to you quick. I do 4 sets, 15 reps, each side. No rest in between each side. Just go 15 reps, switch, 15 reps. I give myself about 30 seconds to a minute rest in between. Those roast you, at least those get me every single time. And just doing just a few of those reps, I'm already feeling a pump in my glutes and my HAMS already. These are awesome. If you haven't tried them yet, do them. They're awesome. Just to even say you even did them once. They're great. So 4 sets, 15 reps. Jefferson squats, my favorite. All right, so that's my pre-exhaust movement. That's how I prepare my body for the lift ahead. I focus on getting as much blood into the muscles that I'm trying to target. So I'll do those pre-exhausting movements. Now I get into my compound movement. Compound movement allows me to keep it basic, allows me to go heavy. So let's go and get started on that. Compound movement next, back squats. Let's do it. All right, next up, compound movement, back squats. That means the bar is behind your back. A few things you want to make sure you want to do before you get set up, before you get started. You want to make sure you're in a safe position in the squat rack. So you want to make sure your bars are set up in a position where if you do drop the weight, if some accident does happen, this is going to catch the bar and save you from turning you into a pancake on the bottom, right? So what you're going to do, get yourself in the middle. There's 2 breaths you need to keep in mind. This is going to matter when you're going really heavy, but I'll demonstrate with this lightweight. There's 2 breaths, just like how I demonstrated on the front squats. The first one, deep breath, when you disengage the weight. So here we go, getting underneath. I'll take a deep breath. Disengage. My foot position, just outside shoulder width. I turn my toes slightly out. I take my next breath at the top. Squat down. Back up. What you want to take note of is watch how when I squat down, just like how I was doing on the Jefferson squats, watch how my hips rock forward, back, right? So as I'm sitting down, I'm actually rocking my hips back. By rocking my hips back, that keeps my chest up. And that allows me to sit down deep in my squats. When you're squatting, just like how I was trying to explain with the front squats, you want to squat down and feel your hamstring actually hitting your calves. That's how you know that you're getting the most stretch and the most out of this compound movement. What you want to avoid, you want to avoid loading up the weight and only going partially through the movement. When I say that, I mean as you're going through your work sets, you don't want to count that as a squat, right? There's not much work being done. Even standing here holding the weight, there's no work being done. The work occurs the moment you apply tension to those muscles you're trying to hit. So right now I'm feeling tension in my glutes and my hamstrings. Squat down, all the way to the top. So that's how I do back squats. Next up, spotting. With me today I have a special guest, Wendell. Wendell, That's everyone. All right, he's gonna help us demonstrate how to spot properly, right? The first one is a barbell spot. What we call is a barbell spot. That's where he's gonna stand basically behind me, and he's going to help me stand back up by putting his hands on the bar. Here we go. I'm in my compound movement. I'm going for some forced reps. I've already done 10,000 reps. I'm going for 10,001, and Wendell's gonna help spot me by picking up the bar. That's the first spot, right? The second one is under the chest. Notice when he's doing this under the chest, as I squat down, notice how close he's actually on my back. By doing that, he's guaranteeing that basically no matter what happens, safety's gonna come first, right? What's gonna make sure that happens is, as I'm squatting down, he's making sure that as I'm on the bottom, he's making sure that I don't tilt forward, right? Once you tilt forward, that's when you compromise your back, your spine, and then you'll dump the weight, and that's how you can get injured. So make sure that when you're going into your compound movements, you have someone that you trust to spot you. Can you demonstrate the one where the far distance, long distance back squat? What you want to avoid, you don't want this spotter, okay? You're going really heavy. The heaviest you've ever gone. You're on your last rep, and you need that spot. He has no way to help me stand back up. Even though he's got his hands underneath my chest and he's trying to help me stand back up, there's no way he can actually get underneath me and help me get back up. Wait, come on in. And stand up. By getting closer, bam, right there. You kind of turn yourself into two bodies standing back up. That matters when you basically, the larger the base, the stronger you're gonna be. So don't mess around when it comes to back squats. No matter how uncomfortable it may look, your safety's gonna come first every single time. And as a result, you're gonna get even better gains than the person who's scared to ask for an epic spot. Right. Thanks, man.
Thank you, guys.
Right. The next piece of compound movement that I love to do are deadlifts, just regular deadlifts. And do them with a deficit because it allows me to put more emphasis on my hamstrings, which is the point of this entire lift. So when I do it, typically I'll just put some plates down. You can actually raise the deficit. In other words, if you put more plates down, you can raise how much more you're actually taking away from your start position. When I say taking away, basically the greater the deficit, the harder it's gonna be. So this is pretty much where I like to start from. When you do a deadlift, I like to use an over-under grip, opposing grips, because that means once the weight starts getting really heavy, the weight will tend to want to roll out of your hands. So by having opposing grips, if the bar is trying to roll out of my hand this way, and the bar is trying to roll out of my hand this way, it kind of gets stuck in between. So it allows me to pull a lot heavier, much heavier weight with this opposing grip. Now that's just my personal preference. I have friends that like to do an overhand grip, or even close in, but I love an over-under grip. So my feet and my foot positioning, my feet are positioned just slightly outside my shoulder width. I grab the bar, deep breath, keep my butt down. Now here's the thing, here's the test when we're doing deadlifts. Keep the bar close to your shins. When you fall through the top, it's like hip drive. You gotta think of pulling your hips through the bar, just like how I was demonstrating with the Jefferson Squats. Deep breath. Notice how as I brought the bar down, it's basically riding down my legs. I'm not trying to use my legs to lower the, I'm not trying to use my legs to slow the bar down. What I'm doing is I'm just keeping the bar close to my legs because it tells me to keep myself more in a vertical position. So again, start position, make sure your butt is down. Down, here. You follow through hip drive. Deadlifts. Make sure you start from a dead stop. In other words, when I come down, I'm not trying to use the floor as a rebound. That's not what I'm trying to do. The focus is literally a dead stop and go. Now, deadlifts you gotta be careful with, particularly on this compound movement, because the most common problem that I see, particularly my friends, when they do this movement, when they go, they start off standing up first and then pulling the weight with their lower back. That's what you don't want to do. So I'll demonstrate with this because it's light. You're going. You don't want to be this guy. Right there. Basically, what I did was I stood up first. My hips went straight up, and then I pulled it with my back. That's a whole different kind of movement. So deadlifts, what I'm trying to teach is teaching you how to pull first with your legs and follow through with your glutes. I'm not even thinking about my back, right? So here we go. This is what I'm trying to show you. Deep breath. Let it out. Deep breath. Let it out. Deep breath. Let it out. All right. So, this is the main thing you need to know to take note of when you're doing deadlifts. Never, ever, ever pull with your back, right? So never pull with your back going down or coming up. You will break yourself. All right, so as far as my reps go, I just literally pyramid all my compound movement. So pyramiding stays the same. So now on deadlifts, I typically don't go high on volume. Not for compound movement, I'm not trying to do that. So compound movement, deadlifts, you can go a lot heavier. So this one, I actually step it down. I'll go 15, 12, 10. I'll step it all the way down to just one rep. One super Conan rep. And this one here, you actually don't need a spotter for this one. Just someone motivating you. All right, the next compound movement that I love to do are stiff leg deadlifts. Stiff leg deadlifts means you don't bend your knees on your deadlifts, all right? So what that does is allows me to isolate my glutes and my hamstrings. What I like to do, so I get more stretch out of the movement, I like to do them in a deficit. That means I have a raised platform. And that's what it means by a deficit. One more thing, the way I connect with how I squeeze just my glutes and my hamstrings, I first start off standing at rest, right? And I focus, okay, right away, I think squeezing my glutes, squeezing my hamstrings. And how I do that, I think of pushing my feet. It feels like I'm squeezing so tight, it feels like my feet are pushing like away from the middle, right? That's what it feels like. It feels like if this platform were to just drop away from me, my legs are gonna shoot right out, just like that, right? So that's how I think of squeezing my glutes and hamstrings all the way through from the beginning. So, kind of similar to the Jefferson Squats, there's a shift in the hips, right?
All right, go.
Yep?
Yep.
All right. When I do stiff leg deadlifts, I hold it in an over grip. That means both hands are over. So right off the bat, when I start off my stiff leg deadlifts, I mean squeezing my glutes, squeezing my hamstrings. That positioning, right? Deep breath. You're only gonna let yourself bend from the hips, not your knees, not your back. And feel that stretching your hamstrings and back up. I actually don't do this position here. I like to keep myself straight. I focus on squeezing through my glutes and my hamstrings. I follow through the movement, right? And the muscles that I'm trying to connect with. Not so much where my shoulders are, right? It's different for everyone, but for me, I feel it right here, where my glutes and hamstrings flex. So deep breath. Back up. When I'm doing this one, I'm thinking of letting my hips drop straight back. So I'm gonna exaggerate my point. When I say straight back, that means it does that. My hips go back away from the bar, right? So back away from the bar and back up. And as I'm coming back up, from the bottom, I think of pulling my hips through the middle. So it's like this, right? Through. So deep breath. Now legs are straight, right? Knees are straight, legs are straight, and back up. Try and focus on the movement where your hips drop back. And by doing that, like I said, it allows you to focus on just your glutes and your hamstrings. All right, next up, leg press. When you do a leg press, just like how if I was on a squat rack, right? I take a deep breath to disengage the weight. Disengage the weight. Then I get myself in position. I position my feet a little bit higher than normal. Can you see that?
Yeah.
I position my feet a little bit higher. And then as I lower the weight down, I try to get my knees all the way to my chest. Back into my chest. Right there, that's where I start to feel the stretch in my glutes and my hamstrings. When I extend at the top, I focus on keeping all the tension at my glutes and my hamstrings. So in other words, I don't think about locking out at the top. The moment I lock out at the top, if my focus is on glutes and hamstrings, the moment I do that, I feel my quads taking over, and that's what I don't want. I want to keep all the tension on my glutes and my hams. So I keep my extension right just near the top of the movement. So that's where I actually start from. There. There. The breathing, deep breath at the top. Out at the top. Leg press is awesome. Leg press, just like how, similar to stiff leg deadlifts, me, I get more out of how much volume I do, not so much out of how much weight I do for a short amount of time. So I'm not trying to do just one rep on a leg press, for example. So when I pyramid my weight, again, utilizing the spotter still for my forced reps, that's at the top of the pyramid. Top of the pyramid being when my reps are down right about 6 reps. Okay, so my spotter is helping me right when I'm like at my 3rd rep, and I'm going for 6. It's helping me get, 2, maybe 3 more reps. So that's what I mean by my count dropping dramatically, and where I need my spotter to help me get those last reps, right? So pyramiding the weight, and your sets. So my reps will typically stay at, like I said, higher on the volume. So I'll do 20, 15, 12, 10, 10, 8, 5. That's what I mean by going, doing more in terms of volume goes. So compound movement, leg press. This machine is awesome. The one thing I want you to note, something that I see a big mistake when I see people doing leg press. Do leg press. I see too much of this. Right? It's really, you're technically just moving the weight back and forth, and you're actually not getting, your muscles aren't doing any work, right? There's no positive and there's no negative. There's no work. So, make the reps count for it to actually count, and something that, to quantify something that makes it count, just go all the way. That's it. So that's my compound movement. Now we're gonna get into time under tension and supersets. The next thing we're gonna do, kind of similar to, it's actually the exact same thing to what we did with, what I did with training quads. Only difference is, when you do this leg press, only difference now, the difference is the positioning in your feet, right? You set the weight really light. Position feet up a little bit higher than normal. The reason why is because as your feet are a little bit higher, that's actually going to allow you to pull or press with just your glutes and your hamstrings. So as you're lowering the weight down, you'll feel just your glutes and hamstrings start to take over, right? Deep breath. Back up. And that's that movement for the leg press on this machine. So just like how we did training quads in that other video, it's a 5-second negative. 2, 3, 4, 5. Back up. 5-second positive. 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm gonna do 3 to 5 reps of just that. 2, 3, 4, 5. Back up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then I'm gonna do 10. Regular. Notice I don't extend, I don't lock my knees out at the top. I'm gonna keep constant tension. My glutes and my hamstrings. 10 reps. Then I repeat for a second round. 2, 3, 4, 5. Back up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Back down. 2, 3, 4, 5. Back up. 3, 4, 5. I'm gonna do 2 to 5 again. Followed by, like I said, another round. 10. After you finish that 10, that second round, try to do 2 to 3. I only do 2 rounds of it. That's how much my body can handle before I feel like puking. But I don't want to puke in this lift. what I want to do is continue on my left to do my lunges. So just after doing those that leg press movement, you're going to superset. Come right into, go to another room where you can do your walking lunges. Walking lunges, you're going to focus on your glutes and your hamstrings. And this is how I do that when I do my walking lunges. I'm not just going to step and come up, right? When I do walking lunges with a focus and emphasis on my glutes and my hamstrings, right off the bat, I tell myself, right, I'm squeezing my glutes and hamstrings before I even start the movement. I try to connect with what I'm trying to do first, right? Deep breath, I take a step. Again, making sure your chest is up. Notice my step is a little bit long, right? So I'm out here, drop straight down. When you come up, watch how I drag my back foot. That allows me to pull and drive with my front leg. In other words, pulling with my hamstrings and my glutes. Deep breath. And I fall through the top. Another step. Fall through the top. Every time I step, I always focus on pulling through, pelvis under, squeezing my glutes and my hamstrings. In other words, I'm thinking of every time I squeeze my glutes and my hamstrings, I'm actually picturing myself doing a pose from the back, facing the judges, right? So I'm here, and I'm thinking, squeezing just that. So that's how I connect with that movement. I think about how far I'm trying to project that particular part of my body, right? And by doing that, it allows me to get more isolation, more than normal, than if I wasn't thinking about that. So here we go, I'm gonna demonstrate that walking lunge one more time, right? So I'm here like this, deep breath. By squeezing that, I get way more out of it than if I just did a walking lunge. So again, that's how I do my walking lunges with an emphasis on my glutes and my hamstrings. So after you do those walking lunges, you can do 20 to 30 steps. Go right back to the leg press machine and then repeat. So you just did, that whole thing is 1 round. You're gonna do 4 rounds of that. Now the rest interval is actually about 30 seconds. It's actually harder. So by me saying that it's 30 seconds is less, it forces me to come down on the weight. So on the leg press machine, I'll actually do a fraction of what I'm used to. And I encourage you to make sure that you get your reps in. It's all about how you connect with your muscles that are under focus, right? So don't be afraid to drop the weight down. It doesn't mean you're losing your gains or you're losing any kind of improvements, right? Focus on getting your reps and your sets in and just hit the numbers that I'm saying, because this is what's been working for me. So I encourage you to try the same. All right, this last one you're gonna finish with is seated leg curls. Set the weight really light. Same thing, like how we did in the PreExhaust Movement. We're just gonna do 20 to 30 reps. Now the count on this one, I focus on doing basically a 2-second positive, 2-second negative. So not just running through it, right? By doing this, it allows me to get way more blood into my muscles than normal, than if I just ran through it. Okay, 20 to 30 reps, 4 sets. All right, big shout out, thank you to Stay Fit Gym. Thank you for allowing me to film these videos, sharing this experience with you. And I also want to say thank you to all my friends who have been following me and supporting me in my YouTube channel, sharing my channel, subscribing, every single one of you. Thank you so much. Please send me more requests for more videos to make, and I'll keep making more of these. I love having this experience to reach out and help out my friends in any way that I can. Like I said, it's just my way of giving back and helping out others.